Alright, you guys should be able to hear me soon. Actually, let me check. Looks like all that stuff's good. I'm going to try to get something working real quick on my desktop, so give me a second on the audio here.
With YouTube Premium, watch ads.
I might need to sign up for this YouTube Premium so that I don't have to watch these stupid ads. Let me see. Try this for 1 month. All right, hold on guys, I'm getting something working here in the background. Maybe I refresh this now. Won't have any ads. And then I can just start it back at the beginning. Yeah, it might work. All right, so what are we doing here? We are working on, well, one, I got different music playing, which is royalty free, copyright safe music. And we're just gonna play that in the background of our stream. Let's make sure that we're connected on both sides. Good, good, good. Hey, Alpha Victor Charlie, how's it going? Let me try to get this music. I think that'll play. How's that? You guys should be able to hear me. Never fear, how's it going, Boris? I don't want that too loud. Let me put that down. Is that too low? Can you guys hear that okay? I got a little bit of like industrial metal playing in the background. I don't know. Sounds fine for me. Sounds fine for what I'm doing. I'm just building systems out. So if you guys don't know, here in Phoenix we have had a waterlogged last couple days, and it's just like massively just been raining on us and stuff. So. All right, but what we're doing tonight, for people that are interested, we were hanging out down in our Discord earlier, and we were doing some of this kind of Ansible configuration stuff. And what we decided to do in our course, let me turn this down just a little bit, just a tiny bit. Hold on, that turned it up. Put it right there. Okay, not break my concentration right about there. I think you guys can hear it. Good. Okay. Yeah, and so what we talked about was, I said, hey, I'm going to take these labs that I'm building for this course, and I'm going to drop them into the Killercoda lab so you guys can go in and access them and stuff. And what I decided to do with that was, I was asked a little bit, like, hey, can you show us how to build the labs? You know, some of the guys kind of expressed a little bit of interest. I also pointed out you guys can work on my labs if you needed to. There will be obviously some restrictions on that, but starting your own labs and building your own labs out are easy on Killercoda. So I wanted to show you guys how to do it if you haven't ever done it before. So before we get into my building the labs, I was going to show you guys how to build your own labs out. So for that, we go over to Killercoda, right? And here's the Killercoda contribute. So if you wanted to contribute to a scenario that's already there, you could do this right here. So I'm linking this to anybody that wants it. And Killercoda is a free platform for building out environments that people can interact with your scenarios and learn systems and stuff like that. It's all free. It's one of my just favorite things on the web. I mean, I have stuff on there. Fisherman, who's over in our Discord, in our Twitch, he's working on that kind of stuff, or he's done them before. But this is a way to contribute to the existing scenarios that are already out there. You find a typo, you want to have something, and again, for some of you, it's just to get something on your resume, something that's, you know, going to help you get in there. Then we go over here to, let's say I wanted to get in and start and be my own creator. I can become a creator. I can get started as a creator, and then they give us a bunch of information down here about these environments. And you might say, well, what's an environment? Well, environments are going to come up once you start finding out how to get started here, right? They show you how to get started. You're going to have a general workflow. You're going to add a GitHub repository into their system. You're going to give it the ability to reach out whenever you do a commit. So anytime you do a commit, it'll go and, so you add your repository name. You give it access, right? There's a little key that you can generate and give access. And then you make a webhook so that it can just pull anytime you give it anytime you do anything inside the repository, it'll know and it'll pull down a version. That's their trigger. I don't know of any other trigger they have, so that's probably a safe way to do it, and that's kind of the way that the workflow works. But you set this all up, and then you'll have your list of your scenarios. But the scenarios, you don't have to build them in a vacuum. You don't have to build them from scratch. You don't have to know how to build them from scratch. They have a bunch of good examples of what their workflows look like. Here's a bunch of GitHub examples over here that you could clone down and use, right? There's a bunch of different things to use over here. And what I would do if you were following me or using anything with me is I would just use mine, because mine are already built. I already have a GitHub out there for them. Here's my GitHub here. And probably my by far most popular repo is the ProLUG Labs. And you could clone them down and modify them for whatever you needed to, right? Here's the ones that I have: Ansible, HashiCorp, Kubernetes, Linux. We're going to be adding this automation lab tonight, so it's going to be one that I'm going to be building. But they're all there. You could clone this down if you needed. Did I give you guys that link? Here's our labs if you need them. And boom, there we go. All right, hold on. I got to check my... Oh yeah, I'm YouTube Premium, so I don't get ads anymore now. But I did that just so I could play this music off of YouTube. One of my streamers that I watch, he just plays music like this, and I asked him, I was like, "Where'd you get all that music from?" He's like, "It's free. You just can't have ads on your YouTube unless you want ads playing." I'm like, "Yeah, I don't really want ads playing." But this is royalty-free, whatever music. So yeah, Fisherman. I also have Twitch Prime, not Prime. I have Amazon Prime, but I have Twitch Turbo, so I never watch ads on anybody's stream. You know what'll piss you off though is if you have Twitch Prime and then you watch like Monday Night Football or Thursday Night Football when they put it on, you still got to watch ads, and I'm like, I get that. Definitely a big deal. Yeah, definitely a big deal. Anyway, so let's stop talking about me, even though I love talking about myself, Fisherman. Let me show you guys a little bit about how you build these labs out if you were going to do this. So let's say that you clone this down and then you needed to modify one of these. You were like, okay, I gotta log back in, huh? Well, let's go here. Come on. An error occurred. What? Let me get in there. Let me get back in there. Come on. Should be logged in right now. Okay. So let's say I go into one of my labs here. So I'm gonna go find a lab that's like super simple but has some stuff set up in it. Let's go to like this ad hoc command. So I'm gonna go find it over here. I'm gonna go to my Ansible labs. I'm gonna go to ad hoc, and you'll see I kind of want to go to one that's a little more complex than this, but this will be a fine start. And over here you'll see that it's doing some things, but over here on the left, here's our index.json. So this is super simple. Gives us a title, Ansible intro. Ad hoc commands is the description, ad hoc to gather data. Am I in the same one? 3 ad hoc, yeah. And then it says your team has decided, oh, by the way, that was out here. So when I went back out one, hold on. Ad hoc commands, shell, and setup. So that's what the description is here, is out here. I'm going to drop back into that environment real quick. Oh, I'm sure the NFL's getting their cut of that. It is funny, though, like when they're doing stuff like that, and this guy Kai still has more people sitting in his stream than all of those people put together. That will never stop amusing me. But then you've got this intro part. And the intro is this text for intro.md. So here's our intro.md. Says right here at the top, ad hoc to get welcome to ProLUG. Where's welcome to ProLUG? Oh, it was back there before I hit start, I think. And then our index.json again is all the things. And we're going to start by jumping into this first lab, which is ad hoc to gather data. And then everything in here is in step 1 in this text, right? So you've decided, this is Markdown, by the way, so Markdown's pretty easy to write if you want to. Your team has decided they need a tool that they can use to control and operate the many servers you have in your environment. You have been tasked with evaluating Ansible. So we're going to go look at this tool, Ansible. And you know that tool, you know that individual modules can be called. And then I go and I do a bunch of Ansible-like things, right? And down here, I have the solution. And then the solution is locked away until people want to actually open up the solution, right? So the solution is here. And then it comes out only if people want to see the solution, which is under summary, and details can be closed all the way down to the end here of details, right? It's just a super simple thing. Never fear, you said actually messing with Ansible. Nice. Ansible roles are good. We're going to be getting into those for sure in the automation course. I don't have anybody doing any of that stuff yet, but we can go look at individual pieces and run commands. Looks like this when we want to run a command. And we can allow it to be executed right as they click on it. So people can just click on it over and over again and get that part to execute in the environment. It's pretty nice, pretty straightforward. We can check all the servers uptime by after we made sure that the host inventory file was good. We have control plane in node 01, so we can go hit that, and we can see the uptime of our environment and our servers, right? So we can map back and forth between what we want to show somebody and make them see in the environment versus the types of questions that we're asking them in between or what instructions we're giving them. Super easy to do. We can just keep kind of working through it. And then this one, when we hit check, it says validation failed. Well, where does the validation come from? Well, the validation's over here in verify. And what this is going to do is it's going to grep distribution from root version. Because right here, I say take, where's it at? I'm going to say to grab the Ansible distribution. So that's going to come to the screen. And we can see the Ansible distribution. And then I say go ahead and throw that in a file called root version. So we grep distribution from root version. And as long as that word shows up somewhere, that part of the validation is going to pass. So that'll be an exit code of 0, which is good. And then it's going to grep date plus %f from root date, meaning when we're done with this date command that gives us a cool little date, the system's going to look for today's date somewhere in here in the format that looks like date plus %f. %cap f, by the way. And that looks like this right here. So 250928 has to be found in here. Well, it's right there. 250928, 250928. So it finds that string, and then it allows us to continue on. That string is by executing this and throwing this into root date. So you can set up checks that allow people to only move forward with successful validation if they do the things you show them how to do in the lab. This is a very important kind of thing if you want to get into doing this. Never fear, you said, or Boris said, learning as you go, need it for work. Nice. Do you have roles already at work and you're now trying to modify them, or are you trying to add roles into a playbook? Very important to understand, roles will always happen before tasks in a playbook. So even if you put tasks first and then it rolls later and go, oh, well, roles will be inherited after the tasks, that's not how it'll execute. Ansible will suck it all up. It'll run the roles first and then the tasks. If you have tasks you need to run before roles in a playbook, like just something to set stuff up, you got to use pre-tasks. Pre-tasks are the way that you do it. So just so you know, like if you had tasks already in there and then you drop roles after and say my roles will happen later, your roles will not happen later. Your roles will happen first and then the tasks will happen. Only pre-tasks happen before roles. That's a very important thing to understand in like execution order of Ansible, because I've had people come to me in their Ansible like at work and they're like, I did this and I added this and it's all busted. And I'm like, the order of execution's wrong. You can check that. It's very important to know because I didn't know that for years. Never fear. I didn't know that. I just never used tasks. And then when I started using tasks and they were always happening at the end, I'm like, why? They're logically before, in like a procedural program, they would happen before. But Ansible's not a procedural program. It's being slurped up and run through Python, right? So like, it is not procedural top down. It is doing stuff in the order that Ansible has defined as the effective order. By the way, it is raining outside again. So hopefully my wall's not going to fall down in the night or anything. All right, let's see what's going on here. People are, as soon as I start streaming, people just start texting me. So, I think that if anybody really wanted to dig in on this, I think you could. The first thing you would do, you'd come to Killercoda, you would come over here and say that you want to be a creator. Down here on the bottom left, you would go to creators. You'd say, I want to become a creator today, and then you would go through the steps. Again, they have a getting started that walks you through the workflow of all the things you need to do. You do have to have a GitHub up, and you do have to set up a key for them. They show you how to do it all, put it in there, and then it will trigger every time you do anything. So if I were to go change something in my environment right now, I'm going to go to my creator, and if I were to go to, like Hetan is here, I can see the last Git commit I did. It was on 8/24, so it was like over a month ago. Last time I modified anything in here or built anything. We're going to be adding a new whole folder. There's going to be a whole folder over here new. I think since it's alphabetical order, it'll be up here. It'll be Ansible, and then it'll be our automation labs. So that's going to be fine. Let's go find one of these later. I want to find one of these later ones. All right. So our NFS Ansible deploy may be one that we copy and we drop down in there, right? So down in our automation labs, we'll maybe paste this folder. Whoops. And apparently it'll look like that until we have another one in there with it. So maybe we'll paste another one in there. Yeah. So it'll be a deploy and a copy. That's a little easier for me to manage as far as looking at it. But notice now that these are now they're not tracked yet. I haven't committed them up to Git, any of that good stuff, so we can modify the names on them and play with them a little bit. But another thing that needs to come from here that's actually kind of a fun one, this didn't come until later. You actually now have to have a, we'll paste it in here. You now have to have a structure.json that defines the pathing of your stuff. This never used to have to be there, but now it does. And I can call this like, let's just say that we were going to call this unit 1. Unit 1, and that says install Ansible. No, I'm just going to say unit 1 tools, and then unit 2. This thing is so ridiculous, guys. I have never turned anything like this on in my VS Code. It just started happening. The thing that it's going to map to, that would be, I'd actually think it was quite clever if it mapped to all these things. This is what it's going to map to. So if I were like, hey, copy all these in and put them in, that would be kind of cool. I think it probably would do that, actually. I wonder if it would do that. If I said, put if I went like this, and I just said, I'm very curious if this would work. Typically, you put like a comment in, right? Right, but I think that'll break all over the place. But I would think that was fun. I'm gonna get rid of that. Get rid of that because I don't want none of that crap. Let's just we'll write them ourselves. Do unit 2. Why do I have? Isn't it? Oh, I guess it is only 7 o'clock on a Saturday. I have like a spam call coming in. That's weird. Interacting with OS will be this one. The last one does not get a comma in JSON. Some of you know that. And then any one before that does need a comma. That's just kind of the way life works. And these are going to be our 2 labs that we're going to build for, well, I'm going to be working on tonight in general. Let's modify this name. Rename to Unit 2. Interacting with OS. And this one will be, where's that? Unit 1 tools, right? Probably make Claude do it. Yeah, I bet these things could do all this if I wanted to. I just, you know, it's just funny. I was telling you guys the other day, I was talking about this the other day. I never set any of this stuff up. I just opened up VS Code one day and it was like, bro, you want some help, bro? Bro, you want some help? And I was like, I mean, I guess I'll play around with you a little bit, but like I've never like strictly said, hey, I want any of those things running. It just kind of happened that way. Let me go real quick. Hold on. Let me streaming this. Give me 1 second real quick. I'm gonna grab a couple water bottles. Be right back. Not going far. I got a fridge in my office, so I didn't have to go too far. But we're gonna build these. Traffic King, you said, hold on. What's this question? Let me grab this and give us some water. Traffic King said, question, did you first script out the lesson with all the objectives? No, I didn't really do. I mean, I wouldn't say I did that, no. No, all I did here, let's get rid of the Ansible labs. We don't need them anymore. No, all I did, in general, all I do in any of this is just write up. So I originally kind of just laid out what I thought would be useful for automation for a course with people, and this is the table of contents that we're going to go with. Automation tools, installation, execution is the first one. So if you need to install a tool or verify that it's there, in our case, it's already there. So we're just checking the versions and making sure they're there. And then now the second one will interact with the OS. We still got to write the first one though, because I didn't write it last week. So that's kind of where we're at right now. This is kind of what we're working on. So got all these assets that I don't need. Okay. As I sit here, I find that maybe I've made somewhat of a mistake with this music, because this music is not calming me in any way, that's for sure. You guys still hear that a little bit? Not much. It's a little low, but you guys should be able to hear that. Okay. All right, I need to build this up. I need to write it all out, and then as I start to do it, I just lose all motivation. Let me check some other things real quick here. Real quick, for people, by the way, that are wondering, we do have in our Discord quite a bit of things going on. Actually, in about 3 hours, we'll have another group. So if people want to hop in 3 hours, we got a late night bash study. I might even be around for that, depending on when the wife gets home. We got a writer's room tomorrow, and we have maintenance tomorrow in the lab. So I do have some stuff to set up in the home lab for that too, that I just haven't gotten around to doing. And then we do have bash study group the next week. And then just a reminder for anybody, next week the security engineering course and the security and the automation course are not running next week. So maybe I'll just cancel that one event. Just cancel that one event. And let me go to this one and cancel just this one event, just so nobody thinks to be there, because I'm going to be out of town next weekend, so I'm not going to be around for that to help out. So, you got too many unread? Yeah. Well, I try to keep the server busy in general. Guys, if anybody's participating in the courses, there's a bunch of these labs here, discussions, and if you are participating, you do have to do the discussions. I would never tell another adult that they have to do anything unless they're one of my college students, but for people who do want to sit and do the whole course and tell me they want to do it, these are required. Other than that, the most bland way I can say it, I don't give a fuck what people do, right? Do whatever you want with your life. But if you're doing the course, do that. All right. Hopefully that is captured in the spirit in which it is said. Okay. So let's go to this first one, and we got to clean up a lot of this, right? So let's go look at our host file. Our host file has control plane and node 01. That's perfectly fine as a basic little server. We can have them generically defined as the client and the server. That's fine. It's not going to matter to this part of the course. And let's kill all of these off. We don't need them. Move to recycle bin. You guys can all die. Also, for some reason, when I clicked on that, it popped up like a command shell. That's kind of weird. It's not that bad. I'm just saying. My point is, I'm not anybody's. Well, I guess I am somebody's dad, but I'm not anybody here's dad. So I'm not making anybody here do anything they don't want to do, right? That would be. I think that'd be the best way to put it. Let's change this to automation, and then this one is going to be you. How's that? You inspected your tools, their versions, and executed basic functions or commands to verify functionality. That's very poor grammar. When you make a list, the things should be the same type of things. But I'm not a grammar professor. I'm a professor of engineering. So there we go. Yeah, I'm like the ProLUG's dad. That's fair. I do have one kid, a step kid, and a grandkid, I guess. So I mean, in that way, I'm a dad. But I guarantee none of them are listening to me. So or listening to me. None of them listen to me. Period. That's for sure. Ansible playbook, automation playbooks. Title will be automation. That's not bad. I guess I get like, I was reading about it, I guess like I get 3,000 of those a day of just like autocompletes and stuff like that. And I'm like, you know what's funny about that is like I've had autocompletes in my emails for probably close to 5 years. Like I know DeVry has had autocompletes in my email for a long time, probably almost 5 years. I hate when something tries to autocomplete for me. I almost always change direction on whatever I'm saying. In fact, if you were trying to control me, if you knew what I wanted to say and you put it out there, it's almost like I would change it like I was Pingu. Does everybody here know who Pingu is? Pingu is the, where do I have? I know I have him somewhere here. He's this guy. The now I'm not doing it, right? This is me right here. Now I'm not doing it. Or have you ever seen where he's sitting there like this and he's like, no, I'm not doing it. That's what I feel like a lot of times when I know there's more of him somewhere in our server, but I posted him the other day. What's going on here? Display. What channel am I even in here? The hell is this? I was like, where the hell is this? Like somebody. Oh, okay, it's because more people added stuff after what I posted. All right, good. I'm like sitting here going like, what the hell's going on in this server? Don't mind me. Let me just go somewhere. Academic topics is pretty safe to sit in sometimes. Yeah, like this was me in my college class the other day. We had this is my bigger classroom here. I was teaching cybersecurity and data privacy. So, all right. That was Wednesday night. I was doing that. In case anybody cares. Nobody cares. Let's keep going back to this. Playbook 2. Test. Execute your automation tools. Test and execute your automation tools. Boom. Alright, intro MD foreground. Let's see what our intro is doing. Welcome to ProLUG Automation. Boom. And then setup is install Ansible and then touch it finished, and then the foreground will finish when touch temp is finished. So that's good. All right. Finish. Look at you learning automation. Automation doesn't need to be capitalized there. Inspect those. Whoops. Control S. Control S. Get out of here. Get out of here. All right, we gotta fix this. So this is gonna be execute bash. Fine. Bash commands are fine. And then this one will be execute. Oh. What just happened? Get out of here. I definitely did not want to do whatever that is. Hold on. There you go. I thought it took commands. That's annoying. I don't know how to get rid of this. Escape. There we go. All right. I was like, I didn't know why that was popping up. I didn't type anything for it, right? Python commands, and then I gotta add another one here. Well, that's actually funny that that's right. It's but the only part that's right is not this. That is right. That is what I want. Okay. And then the MD verify and finish, I'm going to need to copy this. And we'll just drop it in here to paste it. And then, oops. Not need to do that. Yeah. Paste it in here. Rename it. Unit 3, step 3. There you go. Surprised it didn't try to give me a name. All right, assets. We don't actually care about any of these assets anymore except for the host one. So, kind of hassle to work on a smaller screen like this, but there we go. And that drops it in root's home directory right there. So that's just root. That's all that is. I'll just leave this over here. All right, so I have the general stuff set up. I didn't show this earlier when I was talking about building out Kubernetes stuff or Killercoda, but down here at the bottom, the back end of your image ID is very important. If you want to have very quick labs that just kind of run, you can, and by the way, here's the last time anything was modified. We're going to see this trigger when I actually save this. But if we go over to, go down here to contribute for people. Sorry, no, creators. When you go down here, here's the environments, right? So if you just want a little Ubuntu environment for just one node, boom, there you go. If you want it to be an Ubuntu 4 gig, which is kind of a bigger, you want to do Docker and Podman on there and have people be able to build and run those environments. There's a Kubernetes 1 node if you just want a really small low Kubernetes cluster that's doing kind of almost like K3 stuff, but it really is still kubeadm cluster. So it is a real cluster, but it's very, very lightweight. And then typically what I do is the Kubernetes kubeadm 2 node, because the 2 node environment allows you to communicate with another server, which is in my mind, the bare minimum. You have to be able to hit 2 servers for your automation stuff. You probably get away with 1, but you do 2. It's in my mind a little better. Oh, did my thing break? Come on, there we go. All right, let's go back over here and there and there. Okay. Yeah, I don't know why my audio broke there, but maybe because I've been using it all day. So. Yeah, and then they have release cycles, so they have more coming out. So let me see, what do they got? So these are updating the versions of Kubernetes, which is probably useful for you guys to know if you're doing Kubernetes type stuff. And then it also looks like rapid images can be used to test next Kubernetes. Oh, that's nice. So if you had a newer version, like you were trying to show somebody something newer in Kubernetes, you could test that. That is, I like that. That's a really good, like, so you could test the new one against whatever code or thing that you had. I have stuff on here with Kubernetes that I probably need to update because it's pretty old and dated. All right, well, now we got to write the lab. So this is the part that always sucks. Actually, sitting down and doing all the work. Work's the worst. All right. So we're going to go into step 1 text. We got, how are we going to verify? And in this case, we're going to show mount that we are showing something or working something. In my case, I don't really care any of that's done. What I care about in this environment probably is, actually don't care. So if I don't care, then I just say this. Bin true will always execute to true. It'll always give a return code of 0 no matter what. So we'll probably just do bin true as our execution. So this will become an executable script and it'll test, and then when we do the lab and we just hit finish, it'll go forward. Because basically, if you're done with the lab, you can move forward. Could I cheese it and have a thing that said, hit this when you're done, and it'll just like echo something into a file and then test that file for existence? Yeah. But that's silly. I mean, when the lab is so simple that all you're doing is making sure you can execute bash commands, which you're in a terminal shell, so by accident you would execute a bash command even if you didn't want to. I think that that's fine to just let somebody hit the button and go next. But that's, I don't know, maybe that's me being a little cynical or whatever. Who knows? Execute bash, execute Python, execute Ansible. Save this off. Is that too loud, by the way? I feel like that's really low. Like, I don't think that's super loud at all, but make sure that music's not too loud for you guys. Not killing any of you over there. I think it should be good. ProLUG automation. And we might blow this away and just use this one here. This unit 1. Because I already have so many things set up in here, there would be a lot less to change. That's probably the way we're going to do it. When I get this one done, I'll just move it forward, and we'll wipe this for now. This one doesn't need to be here. Hold on a second. Yeah, move the recycling bin. Boom, get out of there. Okay, so we'll build this first one. We'll test it a little bit, and then we'll start working on the second one. Because I was going to try to get this done for the guys tonight. So how do we write these? So we've got the assets host file. We need, well, we don't really need it for the first one. Okay. Let's go write this thing. So lab activities. You have found yourself a bash shell. Ensure that you can execute simple commands and interact with your environment. Your things are verify version of bash, verify shell hid, and let's say right, so do those things, and the solution down here will be pretty straightforward. It'll be which bash, and it'll be user. Let's actually check in our environment. I don't even actually know what bash is for here, so let's go check. Ansible labs. That literally doesn't matter which lab I go into. Which bash? Let's see what it's going to give us. We could actually make this more complex, but user bin bash is fine. Okay. Okay. I thought that was going to work, but you know, one test was worth 1,000 expert opinions, right? We could just check. Then we'll say echo $$, so that'll be that, and then echo shell, that's a variable, and then we'll say for server in, and in our case it's going to be control plane and node 01, right? Control plane and node 01. Do timeout. We'll do 10 SSH, and in our case it'll just be $server. $server at should just be server, and then uptime done. Do uptime done. Yep, that's right. Okay. I don't think we need anything else down to here. Okay, so again, labs are really short for this first one, so I mean, pretty straightforward, I think. So we gotta start up here, and we'll say your end version of bash. That'll be something like that. And then we'll have verify your shell PID. That'll look like something like that. Why is that popping up like that? It's super annoying. Verify. Verify your shell variable. And then loop over your target servers. So that's simple bash, right? I got other stuff that'll teach you how to use bash if you need to. This is not the place to learn how to use bash. That's not the point of it. And I think that those, that'll work, that's fine for that. Now this one is gonna be that same one again. You have decided to verify and test Python on your system. And this one is going to be then same type of thing. Verify your version. Python. Test that you can execute. Right? We might even do a print in there or something simple. And then I think that's all I have. Yeah, I think that's all I have for you guys there. So you're gonna drop in there. I wonder if I'm actually gonna test this here. I wonder if I can drop you guys in a shell and then have you do like little one-off commands. That would not be great for an automation course, but it would be great for like just teaching people simple step-by-step Ansible type or Python type stuff. There could be, I mean, for people that use like Jupyter Notebook, if you've ever seen Jupyter Notebook, that would be useful. That's just a productivity tool that people use when they don't want to do command line stuff. Jupyter's a pretty good little tool. Hold on, guys, I got too many people messaging me. All right. Colchis, well, you gotta do it manually. Yeah, that's true. I do think, I mean, in net effect, you do have to know how to do each individual step, right? That's one of those Deming-isms I always talk about. Let's go ahead and we'll just copy this in for now. We'll say verify your version of Python. And how might you do that? Well, actually, there's a few ways. We could have which, that's fine. Python 3 -- version, right? That'll execute. And then we'll take this one and we'll say test that you can execute Python and import modules, right? And this will be, I'm very curious. Again, we're gonna have to see if this works, but Python, whoops. It's all case sensitive, guys. Python 3, and then test it. Right. Okay, here we go. By the way, Colchis, since you're here, is the music too loud? Is the music okay? I don't think I have it too loud, but if it is, let me know. Found a different playlist to run. So is it quiet? I mean, I have it down, like, compared to me, pretty low. How's that? Do you guys like it quiet? Put it right about there. Good volume. Okay, I put it back about where it was. Okay. I was sitting here, guys. I was like trying to concentrate, and I realized, like, because I don't. If any of you guys know, like, let me tell you guys something that I found out about myself very early on when I was in the Army. I was 18 in the Army. I can run. I can't run anymore. I could still run, but I'm not. It'd be a jog. When I was younger, I could run. I don't need music. I'm a madman. You know how people need, like, I know Fisherman's still a runner, needs playlists and stuff like. I don't need any of that. Go to the gym. Don't need any of that. Don't need anything. I'm insane. Working at home here. Don't need anything. I don't listen to music when I do stuff, right? So I turned the music on today thinking, oh, it'll just be in the background for people. And it has completely derailed my train of thought at least 3 or 4 times. So, I mean, I'm okay with it though. I mean, it's a different type of music than I normally play. This is an industrial metal playlist that one of the guys I know plays. So, and I think it was fun. I was like, yeah, that's cool. Anyway, so can you import module? Tested you can import modules. No, we don't need to say. Oh yeah, I guess I did say that. And then import numpy. And then if this failed, why might that be? Could you resolve? It's not. I mean, if this failed, why might that be? You can correct it if you like, but you are not required to for the lab. Okay, wait, because I want people to know that you're not required to. And then we come down here, and the last one will be exit. So I am very curious if this is going to work. If those will each, because they're just going to a command line, so I think it should just be able to read over. Yeah, Fisherman, I don't need it. Like I can work in total silence. Oh, hey Fisherman, did I tell you what happened on Friday morning? You know what? Can I tell you a story real quick? Does anybody mind if I stop this and tell Fisherman a story? If Fisherman's around, I will tell him a story. All right, so I messaged the management because I work. There's our main government project, and then there's a primary and a secondary, primary and what we call a secondary on a contract. And the primary is who won the contract, and the secondary is somebody who had come along to kind of bolster or give extra stuff. Well, my company, when this was bid, my company had put in a primary with another company as the secondary, and this company is a very big, very large, like Lockheed type defense contract, not Lockheed, but one similar to it. And then we'd also put in a bid to kind of hedge our bets where they were the primary and we were the secondary. So it was like our general architecture with them supporting us, and we would have had more of the seats at the table, or them winning and then us having like only 6 seats at the table. Well, that's the one that won, was the one that the big like defense contractor with us as like a company that specializes in those type of systems for like more than 20 years. That's what Redline does in this government space settlement, right? So all of this, right, Fisherman, to say that what happened was I sent management a thing. I'm with the smaller company, Redline, right, my company, and then this bigger defense contractor, and then this project that we're on with the government. And I send them a message, and I say, hey, guys, I'm going to miss the 7 o'clock meeting, which is 10 o'clock for them, but 7 for me. I'm going to be at the VA. I got to do some blood work, whatever. So I go down to the VA, and maybe I won't tell you right now the VA story, but just suffice it to say, it was maddening. I thought I was on an episode of Punk'd or something. Like, I was looking around for the people laughing at me for what happened in this waiting room that had nothing to do with me. It was just the absolute asinine stuff happening around me. Anyways, I get all done. I get done. That was 6:30 in the morning. And I get off, and I call my wife, and I'm like, that was really quick. Just took my blood, urine sample, whatever. And I was like, I'm going to go over to QT and get some food. QT, for you guys on the East Coast, is kind of like Wawa. It's like a Circle K where they care about you. And it's like really fast, really clean. I go in this place, I get like a couple of these little sausages, and I start driving home. And I could have gotten on the call, but I didn't, right? The call was at 7. So I drive home. By the time I get home, it's about a 20-minute drive, like 15, 20, depending on traffic, home from this VA clinic. My Slack is blowing up, and I'm like, what the hell happened on this call? Well, that government contractor above us, even though our project has always been 100%, 100%, 100%, 100%, which is the main primary metric of like this uptime that they require, they fired our main manager, like the main dude that's like 2 levels up from us, and they fired him. And then they just brought in a bunch of like their corporate dudes. And they told everybody on the meeting, you all need to be here with your cameras on for the rest of the time. This project's going this and this and this. And a bunch of my guys were like, we're not doing that. We're on a contract underneath you. That's not necessary. So anyways, push back on that. That's not a big deal. They fired that dude, came down, started telling us all this stuff. One of their chief, like one of their main engineers on their programs, like, fuck it, I quit. And he just left the meeting. So like 2 dudes like that are like pretty heavy hitters on their team are gone. And my team, we very much specialize in the Linux and the systems and the networking. It was what? Well, hold on. So about 3 weeks ago, one of the guys just up and died on a Saturday. Like, I think I told some of you guys down in the Discord. One guy on my team just died. I don't know if it's too stressful. I don't know what. But, like, now I run all of his stuff. This other guy that left, I'm probably going to have to run all of his stuff. But I'm sitting there going, I'm like, man, we were talking about in Slack, like, all the ways that we could, like, I don't know, push back a little bit, you know, like have a little fun with different types of cameras and things that we could do. And there was all kinds of things that we talked about doing. But I don't know. Like, I think on Monday, like half my team, which is only like 6 of us, I think a bunch of them aren't going to turn their cameras on. And I think it's like I hope it doesn't go to like a contract issue, but there's no contractual requirement for us to do that. We're like, I tell people it's almost like we were out in the sticks and we were working with this other people that are beholden to some like feudal or like some king. And then that king comes down and starts telling them what to do. And we're like, sucks to be you. And they're like, you got to fucking do it too. And we're like, we're fucking contractors to you guys. Right? Like, anyway, so I don't know. I'll never fight that hill. You know why? I already fought the only war I'm ever going to fight. There's no reason for me to fight that way. Turn my camera on. You guys see my green screen behind me? You see whatever the hell you want in my office. You know? But that being said, because like that's not, there's hills I'll die on in systems engineering. That's not one of them. Like I'll turn my camera on. I don't care. But anyways, that's a thing that happened. Oh, you want to hear what happened in the VA waiting room that made me think that I was on an episode of Punk'd? So Fisherman, I'm sitting in this room that's like 20 feet by 30 feet, if I had to guess. It's not a big room. Voice would carry across the whole room. Like if you were talking on your phone, we would all hear you, right? I walk in there at 6:30. The place opened at 6, but I could see all the people that had been in there before me. There was about 3 to 4 people in before me, and 3 or 4 people came after me. So there's probably about 8 of us in this room, right? Blood work is first come, first serve, so I know I'm about the 3rd or 4th person that's going to be called. Fisherman, this is wild. Yeah, Smur, the virtual camera. I told the guys I want to make like a camera of me just like bringing myself coffee and stuff like that, like silly stuff like that, and just have it get weirder and weirder as the progression goes. Like more and more weird stuff keeps walking behind me. Pickle Rick would be good. He's here because I didn't eat half my sandwich. That's somebody that's seen that episode more than 10 times probably to remember that one. That's why the one guy thinks that he's there. But anyways, I've seen that quite a few times. But so Fisherman, I'm sitting there in this waiting room. I'm about halfway down the room. This is not a big room. I have to emphasize, this is probably like a 20 by 30 room. Your voice would carry if you were just talking normally to everybody in the room, unless they had like severe hearing issues. The first person comes out on the left. They come down a little tiny hallway to our room, and they say, Douglas. Look around. There's only like 8 of us in here. I don't know anybody, so I'm like sitting there. 3, 4, 5 seconds go by. Douglas. A few seconds go by. The guy to the left of me, closer to the even, 8 feet from the person calling out, goes, Douglas whatever, like whatever his last name was. And they go, yeah, Douglas whatever. He goes, oh. Stands up, walks over to the guy, and the guy's like, are you Douglas? And he's like, yeah, I'm Douglas. That's like the way the first one went. And I'm like, okay, that was the first call of the day for this guy. Because they started calling people back at 6:30, and I was in there. So that was weird, right? He stood up. He didn't say it was him, and he walked over there. And so like this is weird. Next guy comes out to call like the next person back. Comes down that like a little hallway over to the side, and he's in our room, and he goes, Kyle. I'm just making up a name, Kyle. I look around. I'm like, there's no fucking way. There's not a Kyle in here. There's 7 of us. We all put our names in as we got here. No Kyle. So he waits a few seconds and goes, Kyle. This guy up and to the right of me, he's taller. I'm about 5'11", so he's taller than me. If I had to guess, 6'2", 6'3", heavier than me. If I had to guess, in the high 300s range. Big guy, right? Gets up, starts walking over there. I'm Kyle. I'm like, that was like seriously like 15 seconds from the time your name was called until the time you said anything. Like, is there something wrong with you? Like, anyway, so this happened, right? So then they call another guy. So some other guy comes out to call another guy, and he stands up pretty much right away and starts walking. It doesn't say his name though, like doesn't say whatever. So then they call Scott, and I go here, and I like stand up and I'm like here, almost like I'm teaching the room how to fucking call attendance or something. And I don't know if that's from my time in the military, because these guys were all military at some point, and they're all functionally bereft of any type of, I don't know, but I don't know if it's from my time as being a college professor. I felt like it was like I really thought I was on like an episode of Punk'd or something. Like I was like, what the hell is happening in this room? And then I realized, no wonder nobody likes dealing with the VA. I was like, this is like one of the worst things I've ever seen. Like, I mean, I'm a vet, so I can say that, but like I was like, if that was the first two call outs of the day, I can't imagine that office. Because these two people both seem to be of able body. They just weren't listening. And then the one like asked, like in a room of 8 people, do you think Douglas is the name? Like, I'd think Doug maybe, but not Douglas. Yeah, I couldn't work in there. There's no way. And I go to the VA clinic in Phoenix area that's up in what we call Sun City. It's like the biggest retirement community in the world. And I don't know if it's the world biggest, but it's definitely one of the biggest in the U.S. Huge, just huge retirement. In fact, in Sun City for a long time, and I think they've changed this law, you couldn't even live out there unless you were 55. You couldn't buy a house unless the person buying it was 55. Oh yeah, Mint. I have to like draw so much stuff back, like all the time. But there's things though that like back to that, like I don't actually need music when I do stuff. There's things that don't bother me that bother other engineers so much. Like I bet you if I took a poll, half of you would say, no, man, if I've been on a program for 5 years and somebody just comes down and says there's a new requirement to like turn my camera on, I wouldn't do it. That'd be one of the bet like half of you would say that. Because for some reason, like engineers just like push back on stuff like that. That doesn't bug me one bit. I'll be on camera. I'll have my glasses on. I'll have my contacts in. I don't give a shit. I'll do whatever, right? So, Lazy Coder, I am hanging out. I am here, by the way, in case anybody's wondering. This isn't a recording. We're building out Killercoda labs that mirror our very, very basic start to our automation book or our automation course. We got a free course that people can do, and this is the first lab that I slapped together for last week. We just did the actual meeting a little while ago. So we did a meeting. It was on, is it all this stuff? Yeah, it was all this stuff here. So this is my Linux Automation 2, and we went through all of these things. I'm not going to go through them all right now, but like what automation looks like and kind of how we do these things in an environment, right? So these are the kind of things that we were working on. Atticus, I'm doing well. I always worry when I get blood work, they're going to tell me something's wrong with me. I told the wife, like, until you know, there's nothing wrong, but then once you know, then there's something wrong, right? Fisherman will like this. This is the most cursed image I could find on the web today, was this horse plinko. We're talking about servers coming in for automation pathing through an environment, and like you can't always control things, so you control what you can, right? You do system checking beforehand, you make the things plinko down the path they need to go. So I just thought that was a super funny cursed image, so I used that. Horse plinko. I don't know who made that, but that was hilarious. Somebody linked it in the chat too, so I think somebody found it. And then I talked about like how much variance do you prepare for? You can't figure out every edge case in systems, guys. You can't do it. Systems engineering can't, programming can't. You can handle a lot of stuff, but I always talk about the Pareto rule, which is the 80-20 rule, and then painting with a wide brush. You try to hit the most you can, and you go from there. So, Atticus, I am doing well. But I just had to do a VA thing. You got to go in every now and then. Then this was our unit review. All right. Anyway, so that was me just mentioning that I am here, and then let's go. Let's keep building out this lab. So I'm in over here on the left. This is my GitHub for the labs, and I tell you guys that you could start your own labs if you wanted to. Like Killercoda is one of the best sites on the web for teaching people how to do this stuff. Somebody found a link to a video game version based on that advertised based on the GIF now with crunchy sounds. That's actually really funny, Mint. I just use it as like, The other example I would have used is this right here. If any of you guys have ever seen this scene, and I can't show the scene because if you ever try to show something on YouTube, it'll immediately block out this content, and then you'll never be able to see it again. But it's Battle of Carthage from the movie, from the original Gladiator movie. There's a scene where they're all standing like this, if you guys remember, and they're all like down behind their shields getting ready for whatever's supposed to come out. And in the Battle of Carthage, they're supposed to get crushed by this army that has chariots and all this other stuff. So basically they sent, like, this guy brought his gladiators up to, Rome, and they were going to go in the Colosseum for the first time, and he got the short end of the stick. They screwed him by saying, hey, no, we're going to kill all your guys, and it's just going to be this bloodbath of Battle of Carthage. And he's like, I don't want my guys to be in the Battle of Carthage. These are great fighters. You shouldn't. Well, they were such great fighters that he said, if you recall, Marcus Aurelius said, who here was military? Do you guys know how to form up? Stay close to me. Whatever comes out of these gates, we have a better chance if we stick together. And I've always used that as an example for like how I think of this automation thing, where I don't care what they throw at me on a patching night. I am ready to plinko machine those things down where they need to go. So this was the other thing that I really would have used in that, was like this scene where they're just like down behind their shields planning how they're not just going to get murked here by a battle that was like overwhelming odds against them. That one's much more well known than like Ender's Game, which they showed a little bit of in the movie, but if you read the book, Ender kept getting put up against more and more impossible situations, and he always won. So if you guys didn't ever pick that up, or if you ever read the book, Ender's Game, Ender never loses, right? That's the point of it. So, yeah, I think it's a good battle scene for sure. Where was I at? Import NumPy, why did it fail? Correct it if you want, and then exit. So I'm very curious if that one's going to work. Let's jump down here. Let's go to step 3. And this one is going to be the same type of thing as step 2. So, what was it? You have decided to verify and test Ansible. Test that you can execute. Verify that your version of Ansible. Check other commands. Other Ansible. Right? Verify the other commands that are on your system with Ansible, and then check your modules available. All right. Good enough for government work, which is good. Not that much. Atticus now pseudo formation. Yeah. Form a shell like that. They kind of did that, right? And then it was funny. They were there and they were getting encircled by the chariots, and he orders all the guys to move left, and then they like cause one of the chariots to fall over, and then now they've gotten horses and they've gotten this and this, and they actually do get a hold of some of the, because those chariot riders were just going to ride them down and kill them all. But if they stuck together, they were much more. Yeah, that was a great scene. That's a great movie, in general. When did that come out? When did Gladiator was 2000, so I was actually in the army when that came out. So I was an infantry guy, so that kind of sticks with me. Although we didn't do it with swords, right? That's not how the army infantry does it. But let's see. Okay, so verify your version of Ansible, which is simply Ansible -- version. And then this next one is verify commands on your system. And this one's going to be a little weird because this one will not be an executable command. This is simply going to be Ansible dash. And then So let's say right, so you're gonna do Ansible dash and then tab. I'll say hit. Right. But that's not going to be executable. You can't actually execute that. You just have to do it yourself. I guess if people can't figure that out, I can't really help them. And then last one is check modules in Ansible. Right, that should require a queue to exit, and then Ansible -L, pipe it to word copy -L, or word count -L, which will do by lines, and then maybe check for the copy modules. And this one will be grep-i copy. All right, so we'll control S that, save that one, save that one, save that one. The verify.sh is going to be bin true. And then control S to save that, get this guy out of here, and then this one will also be bin true as well. Because again, when you've had enough of the lab, you just hit verify and it'll move you forward. I'm not really testing anything in this first one. I think this one's done. I do need to leave it as a Kubernetes 2 node because I do need to be able to hit both of them in the bash. Yeah, in the bash one, we're going to hit both of the nodes, so that's fine. Do we want to do that with... We don't need that. We don't really need that with Python. We should probably do it with... Nah, we don't need to do it in this first lab. The first lab, very simple, very basic. Just do the things that we need. All right, so let's take this and Unit 1 tools. For now, I don't know. I don't think that's going to have a parsing error, but let's comment that out and pull that out for now. That should work, shouldn't it? You know what? Screw it. Screw it. Oh, damn it. I'm doing the wrong buttons here because I'm dumb. All right, I'm going to pull this all out right here. Control X, and I'm just going to throw this in a notepad off to the side of the screen. Also, looking over here, I have other stuff I have to do for another project. I'm doing a SOC 2 compliance project for a buddy's company, and I'm not going to worry about it right now. Control S, save. All right, that's all. Okay, so when we do this, when we save this, this should be the start of the automation labs. It'll be the first time we have those ever come up. And we have everything from this lab in there. So the first lab, and then so what'll happen here is lab right here. I'm going to say this lab can be executed from, and we're going to go drop the link in here once we save it. All right. So now all we need to do, we've got everything saved. We come over here, and we're just going to say added the first automation. Oh, hold on. I don't want to do that just yet. Hold on. Let's get this out of here. One other thing I want to add in this environment. So let's come back. I apologize. Over here in the automation labs, in the start of this here, automation lab, unit 1 tools. Let's go look in the structure of this setup. Hold on. Automation labs will be what's shown on the outside. Hold on. Here. Killercoda. Creator. Let's go to our Tanis. Nothing's changed lately. It'll just show Automation Labs. Okay. These labs. I think it'll just say Automation Labs. Unit 1 tools. I just want to make sure. Okay, we got the hosts if we need them. Got the index, Automation Labs, Unit 1 tools. Okay. In our intro, I guess the only place for me to put this will be in the step 1. I'm going to say this lab is designed as part of a larger set of instruction that is free from the professional Linux user group. The lab book for this course can be found here. And I believe I have the basic, let's see if the, I don't think this has changed. And I don't think the guys are, where's our unit index? Let's see, do we have earning the certification, contributing? Let me see if there is, what do I go right here? Okay, all right. I don't know if the guys are eventually going to change this, but I can modify that back, right? That's not a big deal to modify that back later. Now with Markdown, I could also make that just a link. It could just say here and then, you know, whatever. But let's see what this looks like when we render it. So that'll be fine. I'm not such a purist that I need Markdown and everything. There's things that can also be whatever else added in the Automation Lab 1. All right, let's commit. We'll come back here real quick for fun. We're right here. We're going to see this sync here in a second, and we're going to push this commit up into our GitHub. This is going to automatically, like I don't have my hands on the keyboard, like I'm not doing anything. That's going to sync. See it syncing because it saw the webhook, it saw the change to the repository, and then that's going to tag to right now. That's going to go to from 8:24 to 9, probably 28 because it'll be tomorrow. Yeah, because it's doing UTC time, which is 6 hours ahead of me here. So yeah, it's tomorrow, right? Terraform, no, we're not doing Terraform or Tofu, not in this one, but we are going to do, there's going to be a couple sections on Packer. I'm going to do some Packer, which is still HashiCorp language. And I'm going to have an optional one in Packer to go up and do for people that want to do it in AWS. So it's a hard thing for me. It's a hard thing to do some of those because I never want anybody to think I'm collecting their stuff because I want their data. I guarantee you guys right now I have so many other things. Like people might think like, oh, this guy's a streamer. He's got nothing better to do with his time. I got so many other better things to do with my time than even streaming. but where I'm going with that is like, I'm not trying to collect people's data, but that's one too. I don't want people to think like, oh, hey, Scott's making me put keys in for something for my AWS account because like not everybody has an AWS account. And if they do, they definitely shouldn't be giving me or this system their keys. So where I'm going with that is I want people to do things that they want to, but not feel like they're forced to get like an AWS account and put a credit card in for that kind of stuff. Yeah, Packer's pretty solid. I've used Packer for deploying to AWS. And it's weird because so AWS has their own tool for baking images. They've got EC2 Builder or it's Amazon Image Builder or something like that. They got a tool that'll bake all your stuff up for you. But I still prefer Packer because when I used to build images for EC2, it was just super easy to do it local, have it all set up, and then go. I haven't used Packer Codis. No, what is Packer Codis? I have not even heard. So I've been out of that game for a while, Mint. Just so you know. But Packer Coda. Packer Codis. I have not heard of whatever that is. Yeah, Fisherman, that's always been my problem. Like, either people need to have that. So Fisherman, I was going to tell you, I've priced out, and this was one of the things, because like I was looking at like either buying a bunch more capacity for like my home labs, but then I think about it with security and all these other things. And Fisherman, I priced it out the other day. I was looking at EC2 instances. I really should just, because I could deploy even a set of EC2 instances for people at, fuck, I mean, it's like fractions of a penny for 4 hours, and I could have those environments up for like 4 hours, and then people could log in. I could still have the whole Bastion system, but it could wait, and then it could send them through when they're ready, and then just have people get in and do labs like that. And the labs would cost me like, I don't know, 4 cents to run or something. I did the math on it. It's like less than 8 cents to run, Fisherman. But then that comes back to the thing, like, do I charge people for stuff like that? And it's like, I never wanted this to be like a charge model. I never wanted people to like feel like they had to pay to kick it, you know? Like, that's not the goal of all this. This was like, if people get the job and then want to flip us a nickel after because they got a good job, that's fine. But I never want anybody to have to do that, right, Fisherman? Like, I never wanted somebody to be like, oh, hey, I got to hang out, like, I got to pay this guy $10 a month to do stuff with him, and then maybe I get a job 2 years down the line. No, I'd rather people focus on getting the job, and then if they want to give the community something, they could do that. Like you see, like, it's kind of like a different model for me, because I already, like, what am I going to do? Take more from people? Like, I already get like plenty from like being an engineer and a college professor, right? Like, and I'm sure the college charges enough to train people as that goes. Yeah, I think Killercoda is great. I just think that's one of the best things around. All right, let's go check this lab out. I'm curious how this lab is going to work. Test and execute your automation tools. Okay, so this is here. Again, I didn't clean this link up because I could have made this short, right? It's markdown, so we could do anything. This lab is designed part of a larger set of instruction that is free from the Professional Linux Users Group, ProLUG. The lab book for this course can be found here. Boom, that should link over there. That may modify and change, but I can go change those links quickly. You have found yourself in a bash shell. Ensure that you can execute simple commands and interact with your environment. Verify we need to put some spaces in there. So we always find problems here. We probably could do this more efficiently, but that's fine for me. Verify that, and then drop down here. Whoops. And we can say which bash. Oh. Our environment's still standing up. It's doing an Ansible install in the background, so I didn't really need that. I could wait. That's the environment's still standing up, so we'll let that stand up. That sometimes happens the first time. And we will leave these changes here for when we're done. Index.json, we don't need to touch that. Finish. That's good. Okay. Okay, that installed. We did which bash? We got our bash back. We did user bin bash. Oh, I didn't add dash version to that. So this will be user bin. Right. By the way, I'm one level deeper than I intended to be there, so that was that. Then we do echo $shell. Yep, CR shell. And if we had done this other one on accident, like I did, to drop one shell down, I could also do my to see that I'm in it. Oh, echo. Right, I'm in this other environment. Back out to the original one. I can reset the whole environment if I need to. This will reconnect, and then we'll have a new shell even there as well. So that's fine. We see that, right? That's not really part of the course because the automation isn't big on that. And then we run this, and we make sure that we can hit all the servers. I might add to that host name. And the reason I do that is because then it becomes much more apparent what's happening for somebody that's maybe newer. Boom, I hit all the nodes, right? Okay, so we feel good about that. Let's go to our next one. We're going to hit Control-S here to save. Boom. Text. I think I probably am going to need to do that here as well. So, boom. Control-S. And then in our solution, we run a Python version. We run Python 3, and it drops us in here. We say import OS, and that's fine. And then we import NumPy. Oh, that is in the environment. That's fun. That's fun. I said if this failed, why might that be? You can correct it if you like, but you are not required for the lab. I guess. Oh, let's see. Ah, they don't have matplotlib though. So let's do. It is funny that on this Ubuntu box they've got NumPy by default, but on my Rocky boxes we didn't have it. So Red Hat type systems aren't going to have that. Okay, that, and then we should be able to come here and go exit. Boom. So we're back out. All right. So that did all the things that we wanted there. We're going to hit Control S and oops, cancel. Control S, save it. Matplotlib busted. Good. All right. Let's go to lab 3. Let's go step 3. Check in here. Check. And this one says verify your version of Ansible. This stuff. So I got to put spaces here as well. I could probably go find the markdown break, but I don't care that much about it. Like to have that, like I told you guys, I'm not a purist on any of this. Like I don't need to do it in the shortest amount of lines. I care that it works, right? So Ansible version, boom. There's our Ansible version. We'll check our Ansible dash and then tab, and that'll pop out with all the options. So I guess I only need one tab there technically. I was thinking tab because if it doesn't know, it wouldn't pick, but that's fine. We'll just do one tab because that worked. And then we'll say Ansible doc -L. That'll drop us into an interactive shell. So we do have to hit Q on the end of this one. Whoops, Q. And then that'll drop us out. And then Ansible doc, well, let's just hit the buttons here. This will give us word count, which is 8354. That's a lot. Let's just look for copy. And then were you able to see? Can you find Ansible built-in copy? How might you find out what that module does? There's a few ways I can think to do it, and I'm not actually going to show it here because there's other Ansible labs that we show how to do that in. It's Ansible doc -S. Right, you can do copy like that, and then it would do that. So that's, I mean, yeah, sure, we'll add that. We'll do it. Right. Right, so you go in there, you're now in a hit Q to exit. All right, what is shown by this command? Use Q to exit. Control S, those values are all there, good. Push this. Right, fix wording and layout of lab, boom. Sync our changes, go back out here. We'll see that they update right here. I always give it a few seconds because then we're going to go kick the lab off again. How would you use matplotlib? Oh, I'd use it for all kinds of stuff, sciencey. Matplotlib and NumPy. I got all kinds of stuff I can do with that. Mint, I'm like, so some, I don't know if everybody knows this, but like I'm very much like a amateur data scientist. I play around with all types of data. I do geo stuff. I do stuff in weather. Oh, in the terminal? Oh, probably not. Probably. I mean, I might write some stuff and test it that it would do the lib, but I can throw it out to like a JPEG and then look at it. Oh yeah. Okay, I figured. Yeah, maybe you knew that. I didn't know if everybody else knew that. No, you can write stuff out to JPEG. You could probably do. I see what you're saying, like ASCII plot or something. Yeah. I could see that. I didn't. I've never used that one. I've never tried any of that at the terminal. Normally, like if I'm doing something like that, I'll just pop it out to like I'll build a real quick web page and I'll just check the JPEGs because I'm kind of like lazy like that. But I don't do any of that stuff professionally, right? Speaking of, you guys want to hear something funny? I can tell you. One of my brothers works for a big insurance company, and they had this project where they just spent like a lot of money to move. I think it's like in the range of a few $100,000 to move a bunch of data. And on Friday, they were asking him to check out the data because that's all he does is data analytics and stuff. And it's on the order of like a few hundred thousands, not just 100,000. And he found out that they didn't have 30% of the data. He's like, this is like $1 billion data, or not $1 billion data set, a billion item data set, and we don't have any data in it since like it was September. He said, oh shit, was it April? I don't think it was April, but he said 30% of the data was missing out of this data set. He's like, he told me, he's like, I just ruined somebody's weekend because they're trying to find all this data and figure out what it is. So that's kind of funny. Yeah. But yeah, I don't have anything specific I would do with it. I would just try to figure stuff out. All right, let's go check this lab out. So automation labs, new labs. Test and execute your automation. That doesn't look that's kind of almost too long for that box, so we might maybe play with that and make it smaller. Might be too many words. All right. Here's the professional links user. Our links working. Verify all that stuff. So which bash? Oh, we're waiting again. I don't know what's going on with me. All right, guys, I'm gonna take a quick break. So quick break, and 300K rsync fail. Yeah, that's pretty much what it was. I wouldn't be surprised, man. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised at all if that happened. Let me pull up a little hourglass here real quick. And I'll just say quick break. Not 8:13. We'll go like 8 minutes. Quick break. Take a walk. And work on more labs. All right. I'll be back. I'm going to wander around a little bit. I don't know when the wife's coming home either. She's doing game night, so it might be kind of late. See how we're doing over here. I'll be back. Take a walk. minutes, walk it out, then we come back and work on Lab 2, which I have definitely not prepped yet. So Lab 2 will be the next part. And then tomorrow morning I think I'm gonna put together the actual, I'm gonna record unit. Or how about this? I'll put up a poll here. I'll put up a poll. It'll be on the YouTube side, though, or the Twitch side, though. And the poll will be, do I keep working on labs? Wait, what do I do next? What do I do next? This will be work on more labs, talk through Unit 2 stuff automation course. There we go. All right, we'll make that a 5-minute duration on the poll over on the Twitch side, and I'll put this back to 5 minutes real quick. So I just take 5 more minutes of break, and then I don't really have a poll thing over here on YouTube, but it'll be if anybody wants to say what they want. Put in some more labs or talk through automation stuff. So that's your options. Work through that or work through that. So if you guys want to see the Unit 2 stuff, I do have that presentation directly behind here. We can do that. And I'll go with whatever you guys vote on. Although, just remember, Twitch, even if yours wins, if the weight of YouTube falls on you, it can change the outcome. Although, I don't think it's going to fall on them because we have 16 people over there, so if I guess anybody types in what they want, it could change the outcome. We already got one for talk through Unit 2 automation stuff, which I thought was really fun. I had a fun time doing it. So. Let's see, we don't have any votes. All right, well, I'll be back. 2-minute break. 2 more minutes and I'm going. I have 1 vote. All right, looks like it's 2-0. Oh, it looks like 3-0. All right, looks like everybody's going for talk through Unit 2 stuff, so I'll do it. This won't be the official recording, but it'll be a recording of it. So, yeah, it looks like this one won. Looks like that's what you guys want. All right, let me turn my camera back on. Turn it back on over here so you guys can see me. All right, let's get some more water in me. So, we are doing something. This isn't actually technically the official recording yet, but we did get that. I'm saying that's good. That works. Good. Okay. This song kind of goes, right? Okay. So let's pull this up here. If you guys aren't super familiar with the course, let me back up for a second. So we're going through talk through Unit 2 stuff. That's what the people want. Only 2 people voted, or maybe the same person voted twice. I don't know. But we're gonna walk through the course, and I'm not doing this as the official recording. The official recording will still be tomorrow. But if anybody's wondering, we have a course on the website here, or well, this is in our Discord, and there are discussions that you would have to do if you wanted to be involved. And we are only in Unit 2 now, so you do have time to catch up in either the security engineering or the automation course. They are run through our Discord. They are free. There are online books for them. The books are found here. And the automation course that we're going to be going through is right here if anybody wants to kind of look at what's there so far. How's it going, Johnny Man, over on the Twitch side? We are just, the guys just voted, and we're going to go through the automation course stuff for today. So, let me show you guys, for people that aren't then aware of how we run our courses. I run our courses very much like a college class. It's not a college class, but it's very much like one. In fact, I use a template from a college that doesn't exist anymore, that disappeared somewhere back in like 2016. But ProLUG 101, Linux Automation for the Enterprise. We're doing it all online. It is about 160 hours worth of work to get through this course. People that have done them know that they take some time. It's going to talk about Linux in a corporate environment. The course focuses on designing, building, deploying, administration, and remediating tasks and turning them into an automated process. So if you want to learn how to do that, Bash, Python, Ansible, those are my tools of the trade. Typically Ansible nowadays, but I can get away in the other ones. We could have done Perl, man. I grew up on Perl. I can do Perl all day. But Perl, but that's not that wasn't really in it for the guys. And then we walk through all this stuff. All right, so anyways, so if you've never done the course or seen it, here's the instructional areas, the course objectives, what you have to have, how you connect to our environment, the explore, where we talk about things and read and learn. We practice stuff down in a lab environment like we were just building, and then we apply things to the real world and we talk through them and that kind of stuff. So, all right, so that's that stuff. Let me just hop right into the course. So for people that weren't around, this was the Linux Automation Unit 2. This is week 2 of the course. Very blue up here, I know. And the announcements were, me and the wife are going to be out of town next weekend, so don't bother coming to the course next weekend. I have canceled those events on those days for that. So if I had any announcements or rescheduled, they go here. But again, we're going to be out of town next weekend. So I will still put the discussions up, though, so you guys can start the discussions early and start reading about stuff and that kind of stuff. But the actual course itself won't, it'll freeze, both on the security engineering side and the automation side for that. Okay. Last week, one post and one response about the general overall question was, what is automation? There are sub-questions to that in the post. And then find a blog with the topics of triggers and automation. How does a trigger affect automation? How does testing guide automation, right? These types of things that we do. Then there was a worksheet last week, and then a lab just to make sure that you have access and you can execute your tools. We just put that lab up in Killercoda, so boom, that now exists there. The course objective, back to the syllabus, is deploy various automated tools for engineering and operations activities. Can we work in an environment that we, I mean, come on. Some of us are just like, okay, I can get in a bash shell, I can execute Python, I can do Ansible. Let's go. I get it, but for not everybody's that far, right? So we kind of have the first week a little slower, and then we start running into the next weeks, right? So this week is going to have a lot more stuff that we're doing inside of these environments, right? Dealing specifically with like how we interact with an operating system, right? We've got this system running, and our shells know about what's going on, and our shells can gather a bunch of information for us. Our Python can gather a bunch of information for us, as can our Ansible tool, right? We can find out all kinds of information about the environment, do decisions based on those things, and all that kind of stuff. So, okay, that was last week. This week is this week's talk is down a little bit, so we'll get to that. So we're going to do a review. This review is actually funny. This is the whole Unit 1 automation, so I'm just going to go through all that real quick. We talked about what is engineering, what is automation, what's a trigger, what are the types of triggers that there are, what is the difference between an event and alert trigger, if there is a difference, and how would we classify those if we needed to. What tools do we have for automation? There's a bunch of them, but I'm narrowing it down to 3 that we mostly use. And then what is an automation mindset? This is maybe the most important thing that I can talk about. And then why do we cultivate an automation mindset? Like, being able to automate things is good, but we need to know what to automate. We need to look for things to automate. We need to make things better in an environment. If our automations don't make things better, then why are we doing them? There's a very, very old example of this. Some of you are going to be like, man, I can't believe you busted out a movie from like the early 80s. If you ever watched the original Back to the Future movie, the method by which they let us know that Doc is the smartest guy around is he's got a bunch of stupid contraptions in his house that don't really help anybody. But they are there. There's all these automations and all these things, but they're basically a bunch of Rube Goldberg machines. They're not really doing anything. And they're not really making anybody's life easier. They probably made a bunch of people's life way worse making them. My point in saying that is, like, automation for the sake of automation is not why we do it. We do it to make things work better, to solve problems, right? So anyways, all right. So to start, before we get into engineering, we got to know the scientific method, because science is the basis of engineering. I tell people all the time, I probably do more science on a daily basis than most people that aren't like directly doing research or something. And the reason is because everything I do is scientific. I'm building processes, I'm making observations, I'm asking questions. We do the scientific method to deploy engineering tools. That's what we do, right? Especially when it's like a brand new build of something you've never done before, right? You got to go figure these things out. So this is the scientific method. I'm not going to probably talk too much about that because this was a review week for that. But we did talk about it last week. And then engineering is this idea that we build engines or systems that cycle, right? Consider this 8-function cycle. Whatever this system is, it does these 8 things and then it restarts. There are inputs, processes, and outputs along this. If things deviate from normal acceptable processes, that is the enemy of engineering. We've got upper and lower control limits, and we have tolerances, and we have all kinds of things that can happen within a system, and we need to be able to deal with those as they come. Computer science is summed up in input, process, output, right? That's all of computer science for any of you guys that have done that. So suppliers, input, processes, output, customers. Let me go check, make sure I'm still on the same. Yeah, I haven't dropped out of here yet. How much longer do I got here? Hold on. 2:09. Okay, we got some time. So this is how engineering works, right, at a general level. We also heavily dig into that in some of my other talks, like why engineering and those kind of things. But automation is an extension of the engineering cycle process, right? So we are always building things that cycle and work and continue working. But automation requires a trigger to kick off, and we can do that instead of if manual intervention. However, we can still manually start automation. There's no problem with that too. But it is important to accurately break down each step in a process to be able to properly implement it. And then as we kind of talk about it, we also need to deal with catching problems that might happen in the system as well. So things that are falling behind or things that are causing us problems. I don't even know where I was going with that. I saw a thing blink on my screen, and then music's quite distracting. I probably should turn it down a little bit, but it's making it hard for me to brain dump. This is an automation always starts somewhere, mostly at the beginning of cycles, sometimes in between cycles or during cycles, depending on what's happening, and must perform all actions unprompted, uncorrected, or realigned. If something's going to stop this thing from working, you need to be able to figure out how to continue it working as best you can. Okay? So that's automation for us. Triggers. Triggers are time, events, alerts, right? Time. That's a famous start to a riddle from a famous book, right? If you're not familiar with that riddle, they might have used that riddle in the movie, although the movie was not a great adaptation of that book. Chronological is every hour, day, minute, month, whatever you need in some kind of drumbeat interval fashion. Epochs or spans are so many hours since the last run or since something happened. Kickoff, we can have all kinds of time-based triggers. Then we had events and alerts, and events are discrete occurrences within a system, so are alerts. However, events tend to be able to trigger alerts when events generate a certain threshold. So events are everything that's happening in a system, and they can trigger. You can have event-driven system design. You can have code commits, like those webhooks you guys saw me kicking off my builds with in Killercoda. Or we can have alerts. Alerts tend to be like when events meet thresholds, like 100 events of some type in a minute. Maybe that's bad. 100, bad page request to a web server indicates that we're under attack, so we throttle back maybe that IP address or that range of IP addresses for a certain amount of time until they come under control and we don't see them as much, and then we maybe re-release them or something. These are things that happen when people get compromised by like bot networks and stuff. So alerts generated from thresholds, high water marks, or other monitoring of events, right? We might be looking for a string coming in through an API call, right? Trigger. Tools that we have, Bash, Python, Ansible. Those are tools that we use. And then the automation mindset, right? Like if we were systems engineers or we were systems administrators, or maybe to a lesser extent security type people, what are the main problems of systems engineering? What are some ones that you're going to run into in your career? For sure, consistency and timeliness. Consistency is every time I push that. You guys seen that stupid little GIF? It's like a little thing it's gone around a lot, and it's like lizard, 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 lizard. Every time you hit that thing, it needs to be a lizard. It needs to be the same server popping out each time you hit that button over and over again, right? This is how we build these things. So consistency and repeatability are not me going through a script and typing things, because you guys will see me mess up typing all the time. I fat finger stuff left and right. So my automations are designed to make my stuff consistent and repeatable. My builds should always happen the same way. They should be happening. Yeah, that lizard meme's pretty big. And then timeliness, right? If it's going to take me 10 minutes to start something, or it's going to take me 2 days because I don't even look at my emails and I don't even see the thing come in, that's a big difference than that's a big difference for timeliness than if I were to push a button immediately as soon as somebody needed it. Maybe they can even trigger their own automations in an environment, and then it takes 5 minutes every time. 5 minutes to build a server, pretty acceptable nowadays. 2 days to build a server, not super acceptable nowadays, especially with all these virtual environments we have. Servers should be like gumballs dropping out of a gumball machine. They should be pretty simple to put together for a team that has any amount of capacity and stuff like that, and you can deal with that in an environment as you choose to. But for me, like if you told me to support like a dev team that had to retool their stuff often, I should be able to deploy and retool their servers very quickly for them. That's like my job as a systems engineer. Like my job, and I always tell you guys about like pushing fleets of boats out into the night and then they end up changing. If they say that push off wasn't very good, let's start over, I should be able to retool that very quickly. That's like what systems engineers should do. And that's what automation will get you, right? An automation mindset will help you build to that. Okay, so DevOps methodology, we try to pull hardware provisioning down into like a software lifecycle methodology where everything I generate or build becomes an artifact, and those are fed into the next step. Acceptance testing becomes automated, so when I build a server, it automatically checks to see that I have the right disk size. I can talk to the backend NFS that I'm supposed to. I can automate all my checks for all that stuff, right? These are tools that we can do, and we'll get into the how that goes as we go through the course. Peer review before going into production, but we always have devs spinning. Devs should always be ready to plan, design, test, build, and accept as we push. People are doing all this stuff with like GitHub commit actions and stuff. Super easy to push that and run and trigger things over and over again in an environment, right? And then prod is always ready to deploy, and things only go down to prod when they've gone through typically like a peer review or like a 2-human type system. We don't just allow stuff to go to prod because a box said no, it's good. Like all the checks were passed. We tend to still want to see it work and that kind of stuff. So different organizations are going to have different risk appetites for that, but that's us. And then this is one I always tell the guys, like, you can't sleep on one-off commands, man. People think like, hey, I'll never in my whole career do a one-off command. That might be true if you're like a software engineer, maybe. That might be true if you're like I don't know, maybe some people never have to do quick and dirty one-off commands. But you get tapped on the shoulder by your manager, and they're like, hey, I'm going to a meeting. I need this information from like this list of servers. Or you see a little message on Slack before he goes and walks in there. You need to be able to generate that output for them. They need it while they're already in a meeting. The manager needs any number of things, right? There's all kinds of stuff that a manager might need, and you cannot anticipate what a user's going to ask you. I'm going to tell you guys right now, if anybody ever told me, oh, I can't anticipate what users are going to ask for, I'd tell you, man, I don't think you've been in systems very long. Like, and not that you're like, that junior, but I'd tell you for sure you haven't been dealing with users, because users will surprise you every chance they get. We used to joke around, this is early on in my career, we used to say if you build something idiot-proof, they'll make a better idiot. And I 100% believe that the longer I do this stuff. I'll find somebody it's like, you guys ever see that goat that's like upside down in that like thing, and the people pull him out by his feet, and then he goes like, he looks at him and goes, and he does 2 hops and he falls over in the thing again. And you're like, did you really just fall back in that same freaking ditch? Yep, he did. Anyway, so sometimes you need to quickly verify something. Somebody asks you something, and it's always one-off. It's never like something you have easy or something that you can show in one of your cool graphs or charts that you've built. So you do need to be ready to do quick and dirty stuff in an environment. Not changing stuff. I'm not telling you to go run quick and dirty one-off commands that change things, but like your check commands and your ability to pull information out of your system needs to be quick. And you say, well, why would I need it to really be that quick? Because really, all of those little fire drills that people give you are practice for when you really have a fire, when you really have an incident happening and you need to shut down all these servers connections because they're being compromised and they're starting to try to compromise other stuff in your environment. You have to be ready to touch your servers quickly, change stuff if you do have to, but all of it starts from, in my mind, being able to do quick and dirty one-off commands. So don't sleep on those as engineers. I know people are like, I'll never do anything like that. You will. You will if you're maintaining a big environment. You'll definitely need to do these. All right. So that was all the Unit 1 stuff. That was all kind of like a review. So Unit 2 is, as an overview, did I not write? I never went and added it back. I didn't add in the, I just realized this, I didn't add in the discussion questions for this, so I'm going to have to put those here. I'll do it right here, right after the quick and dirty one-offs. Anyways, so Unit 2 overview, we got the automation life cycle, or the automation cycle. How does an automation occur? And then how does the automation cycle function in an enterprise? Like, why might we want something to run to completion no matter what and always report out? That's a valuable thing to understand. And then how do we build for all the eventualities of differences of so many systems? You're going to have, if you have 1,000 servers, you have 1,000 different snowflakes. And people are like, well, but you deployed 50 of those servers the same way. And I'm like, yeah, we did. We did maybe all of them the exact same way. But I immediately, as soon as they're pushed off into that night, as soon as that fleet's out there, people are changing things. People are putting in requests. Admins have to add some storage on one or do something. Those servers are going to be totally different by the time you see them again. Almost like a Ghosts of Mars scenario. All right, if anybody knows what that is, that's an old movie too. But then system checking, how do we check a system and how do we know, what do we need to know to differentiate systems, right? Like systems are different and they behave these different ways and we do these different things with them. By the way, if anybody's wondering, we're talking through this course that's free in our Discord. So if anybody wants to go into our Discord and start working, we're in Unit 2 this week. We're starting Unit 2, so you're not too far behind to catch up and start and do discussion posts. It's like people are down there talking and stuff. That's good. So let's talk about the automation cycle. This is not the only way to do this, but this is a way to do it. We've got a trigger. We've got input validations. Those tend to be done by our tool of choice, but input validations are going to be checking the system as we execute things, making sure the variables are where we expect them to be. There are different levels of validations that can happen. Some of you guys know that, like cleaning up data. Maybe you open a file with Python and then you make sure that it's in the right format for what you need before you do anything. So there's input validation. But then a big one for me, and one that I do often as a systems guy, is system checking, right? I want to separate the systems out into their categories based on variables that I either know about them through my own tooling or that they brought with them, like in their little backpack. I always talk about how Ansible looks in each server's little backpack to see if there's any facts, any custom facts we call them, that came with those servers. And then those custom facts can be used to move the servers off in these different environments, in these different ways, right? Then we execute whatever the primary function is. We don't fail. We always generate variables. Then we get down to our system validation. And system validation should look a lot like system checking. If servers were up and they were good and they fell into our primary function of patching or building or changing or deploying an environment or whatever we're doing, then when we get to validation, we should be able to do all the things from the original system check again. Now, for today, we already talked about trigger the last week. Now we're mostly focusing on system checking, but I'm just kind of walking through all of them. System validation, we make sure things are back to good. Maybe if it was a web server and we turned a web server off, we turn it back on. And then we do reporting, and reporting is send an email, Slack, Discord, whatever kind of message we want. I think whatever tool you choose to use, one of the most important things about it should be, can I send out a message from this tool, from this closed-in environment that this tool exists in, out to somewhere as either an alert or just a report of what's going on? Can I do that? Because I really think if you can do that, well, let me just back up. A thing that's really helped me in my career is my ability to do that. I might have told you guys, I was working for a big college a couple years back. So I worked for a company, Redline, and they kind of like load me up like a little paratrooper and drop me into these different environments. I get dropped in environments, and this one was a college. I was engaged with them for a year. They had two people. One of them was a manager, and one of them had only been in HPC for about a year. And I went in and I helped them rebuild their team back up to 6 people, right? 6 or 7. I think it was 7 actually. And then I was the 8th, and then I ended up leaving and going on to other projects, right? But that was what I was there for that year, was to build their team back up. Where I'm going with that is I had a little automation that I did that went through the environment, and it did something that looked kind of like this. It did something very similar to this. Very simple. All it did, where's our sandbox at? It went through our environment and it looked for any systems that were unreachable. That's the first thing it did. It looked for any systems that rebooted in the last 24 hours. And then based on some other checks that I had, it looked to see if, so then it checked to see if there was a connection on the server back to our GPFS, which is the main primary reason any server would be connected to a supercomputer, is to be on the parallel file system. So check that. If that was there, there was an area for that, kind of just like these. And if it came up every morning empty, our environment was good. But there was always a set of like unreachable systems from the start. We had about 1,260 nodes. And there was always a set of unreachable systems that had never been working, right? And there was, I don't know, there was like 30 or 40 of them. They started being seen every morning. I accidentally sent this to the wrong Slack. It was us and like 2 or 3 shared like sister teams. And I modified it one day and it didn't run. And I got like 2 pings from other team like managers. And they're like, hey, where'd that little check that you have go? That's a standard in our environment now. And I was like, oh, shoot, I didn't even think about that. Yeah, I'll get it right back on. And I reran it and this and this. But also our team, because we saw our unreachable system count every morning. And an unreachable system count in an environment of 1,260 nodes, like 30 or 40 is probably about average. I mean, that's less than a 5%. You know, that's not bad. In 1200, yeah, like 40 or 50 even is less than 5%, so it's not a big deal. But we were up around like 90 when we started that, and that was a lot of systems to look at as being just busted. When I left that place, we were down to like 17, and they were like, "Hey, this is the cleanest this system has ever run." And I'm not trying to brag, because like I wasn't the guy going out fixing those systems. It was just that we saw it every morning. We saw every morning how clean our system was, and it became one of those things where it was almost like a little badge of pride to like knock these servers out and get them off of this unreachable server thing. And this is, I've done this like probably 5 or 6 different places I've been over the years, and it's just to see a clean system report every morning is so nice. One of the ones I used to do, I worked at Best Western for a while as their Ansible architect, and one of our guys down in our Discord, Pico, he still works for them. But I had a check that I did look like this. It checked for any unreachable systems in any of our 2 environments. I had two lists, right? One was anything that came from satellite, right? Because we use satellite, and then anything that came from this other tool they use, right? That's all you can really say about that. They had this other tool in satellite. Satellite's a very common Red Hat tool, right? And I would compare the lists each day, the 2 environments, because things that are built in a company that pays for satellite are always registered to satellite. Just please believe that. That's how patching happens. That's how satellite, or that's how you get support through Red Hat. Anything built, even up in AWS, is always going to be registered through your satellite. So we did that. And I would just see at the beginning, I had this little thing that said systems that were over in satellite, but not another tool. Systems that were another tool, not in satellite. And very quickly, we saw that it was clean. But then something would come up one day, and there would be like 3 systems in satellite, but they were not over in this other tool. Well, then we would show that to the architects and these other guys working on stuff, and they would go, "Oh shoot, that's my process that deployed those 3. I can't believe it didn't go over there. I forgot to add that in." They would add it in. We'd never see it again. So like problems that developed or problems that were systemic to how things were deployed were almost immediately fixed because nobody wanted to be on that list. And I wasn't showing it to people to like let management see or anything like that. I just put it together like that because that was the thing. Anyways, all right. So that's how we do that. So automation cycle kind of looks like this in my environment, or in my head. We've got a trigger. Something's triggering in our environment. Time, events, alerts. And then input validations. They tend to be handled by built-in checks inside your tool. You know, is your syntax good? If your syntax is bad, we break. There's also some runtime checks where we check variables exist that are maybe needed to run some environment or something like that. So that kind of stuff gets checked up front. But maybe we don't fail. We want this thing to finish no matter what in an environment. And there's a reason for that in systems. Hold on real quick. Wait a second. Hold on, I got a message to life. Okay. We'll get a message from her back here in a second. System checking handled by evaluating variables you create and then things that we plan for. And we talk about painting with a wide brush here in a second, but like we can evaluate variables and things about a system. Like, are you a Red Hat 8? I almost said 4. Red Hat 8, 9, or 10 system? I'm going to treat you different ways. Are you an Ubuntu system? Are you a what are you? What type of system are you? Now, there's certain modules in Ansible and other tools that can handle different systems, like package can do DNF or zipper or yum even, right? I think can even do apt, but package might not be the best one for each of those. So maybe in certain environments or certain reasons, we might not want to do that. But the point is we can evaluate variables and then check like the system. And I'm going to show you guys, I have a whole page on system checking. And then we can also take those different values about a server. And you might say, well, Scott, why don't you have all the servers aligned from the beginning? Well, because I'll be honest, sometimes you don't know what's coming out of that gate. It's back to that gladiator problem. I don't know what's going to come out of the gate when the system is, when the system's released to me to do patching or whatever. we're typically from a CMDB, like a configuration management database or some other thing, we're going to get a list of servers. I don't know what all the servers are before that. I've been sitting in meetings and people have been talking about the different patch groups, and we have those all defined, but people will at the last moment pull stuff out. It's a hassle. I hate when people pull stuff out or add stuff at the because then I'm telling you, it always doesn't get communicated, and then somebody's like, why did you patch those extra servers? Because your team dropped them in. Well, is that in a Slack message? Is that in a Teams message? Well, it happened on the call with the bridge, and it should be recorded. Never is, right? So, like, I hate when things get added or deleted like that. Plus, anytime it's late at night and you have people's hands on keyboards changing stuff, I promise you that's when some of the worst mistakes happen, which is why we like automation so much, that consistency thing we were talking about earlier. Anyways, I digress. My point is, I don't know what systems are going to be input in here, but I can do all kinds of things with those systems to move them to what I call the Plinko machine of all the different places they can go. Then the primary function of whatever we're doing, patch, deploy, fix, whatever thing we're doing, we do it. Then we do a system validation. Is the system back up to where we need? Was it rebooted? Did it need to reboot? That could all be part of this basic system checking. System validation is all kinds of checkouts at both. Typically for me, I break this out to the server validation and also the app validation. So sometimes system validation gets broken out. And then we report everything out at the end based on some type of like Jinja template or whatever type of templating we want. The question for this week in the course is, one of the questions is, when might you want automation to always finish? When might you want it to break? Because some of you guys are probably like software engineers and you're like, oh, hell no, I want my stuff to break immediately so that I rewrite it and it's good and it never breaks again. That's not how we do it. Like when I've got 10,000 servers that I got to patch, or let's say I'd say my biggest patching night is probably about 5,000 servers, right? Ever. And, hold on. Yes. Okay. Yeah, so then we report out and my point in saying that is, yeah, I don't know all the things that are going to happen, but I do know that we can validate things back. All right, so we come down here, system checking. What are the things that we might want to check on a system? And this is something I point out down here with the little asterisk at the bottom. We can also remediate here. So automation doesn't just have to be like checking things and then when we drop into that last event block, we finally get stuff working. No, we should try to solve our problem and smooth over what we can. I think of like, if you guys have ever seen somebody do grout, and there's grout in between tiles, right? So you got all these tiles and then you're doing grout, and you see the guy just take like a big dollop on his thing and just go like this over the whole tile. But it goes where it needs to. It goes where it needs to and it smooths over, but then they wipe the tile off and it's fine, right? They just get some tiny little bit of grout, but all the stuff that goes in the cracks where it belongs and where it needs to. The reason I bring that up is because we might check the operating system and versions are what we expect. Sure, cool. Group our stuff up. We might check that software packages are installed and at the expected versions. Sure. We might do that before we do a deploy or before we do some kind of update, right? We might check that services are running and or ports are responding. Like, and you might say, well, why would you check all that before if you're about to do some change or whatever? Well, mainly, and I don't even have it here, but mainly if I have like 1,000 servers going into patching and 20 of them are already off, I want that known up front. One of the worst things that's ever happened to me, and this was early on in my career, we'd patch a bunch of servers, we'd get to the end and go, hey, that pile of 20 servers over there is still off. What are we going to do about that? And I'm like, oh, shoot, was that off? Let's go check for any trouble tickets. Did somebody decommission those in the last few weeks? Shoot, because like we'd have servers that would sit there in a decommission, like stage 2 decommission for like 3 weeks, and we'd just leave them off. But if anybody ever needed them turned back on, we still could. They were still saved. No, what the hell are those servers all doing down? Nobody can remember. Now we got to spend extra time to try to bring those servers up. And then it's funny, you get on the call later and they're like, why'd you turn all those decommissioned servers off? And you're like, oh, I don't know what's going on here. Oh, hold on. I got to turn this song off. I can't play that song because it went to my other playlists. Let me pull up my media player. It jumped over to like Africa, Rains Down in Africa. Let's go to this one. This is fair game. These are all fair. Okay. So anyways, we check to make sure that things are running. We don't want to be trying to catch up, right? For patching, we might validate that repos are configured and can be reached for metadata pulling, right? We used to have this was super annoying. Some software teams had gotten a hold of basically root in some of our environments, and we weren't able to root them out. It's very difficult to get people out of root if they have it. Even if you have management hammer them, they're just like, whatever, we're going to stay root. It's not hard to stay root if you know how and you've had root on a system. It's really not hard. So they were configuring repos though. So we had this big, it was a Hadoop cluster, if any of you guys are remembering Hadoop or any of those big ones. And they had like node 18. It was like, there was a name for our nodes, something to represent how big. Anyways, so it was like node 18, let's say, over here. And they had downloaded software very cleverly as software engineers. Somebody found a blog or a Stack Overflow, and they had put all this software on this one node, and they turned it into an open repository, not hard to do. And all the other nodes pointed at that repository, and they would patch, and they would update their software, whatever. Very clever of them. Very, very good job, right? Is Hadoop just over now? I mean, Hadoop has changed. I mean, people still do Spark processing and stuff. I don't know that Hadoop's not around anymore. I just haven't seen it. They're doing something up in the cloud called Redshift, and Redshift does like Apache Spark type processing, which I know people used to do in Hadoop. So I've often looked at that. Like I looked at all the, because I'm some of you guys know I'm an AWS Solutions Architect Pro, which means I had to know a lot of that stuff. But under the hood, it looks a lot like Hadoop to me. But I never like went and looked to see what they were actually running. But it looks a lot like Hadoop under the hood, like all the things bringing their own disks and their own processing and stuff. It's very much what HDFS and all those processes were. But anyways, where I'm going with this is they had this Hadoop cluster, and they had this one node, and they're very clever, right? Pat them on the back. They're very smart. They did all this stuff. Problem is they didn't clean their shit up. It's always the problem with when people aren't like, because you say, why do you root? Why do you guys with root in the environment like guard this so protectedly, and like why are you such a jerk about it? Why don't you just let everybody? We're all engineers here. Because you don't dust up after yourself and you don't clean your own stuff up. So what happened here in this environment was when we would go to patch that environment and bring everything up to another level, they had turned that repo off on like node 18 or 19 or whatever. So none of these nodes could patch. So what we started doing as one of our pre-checks is we ripped everything out of Etsy. So as Etsy back in the day, yum.repos.d, we ripped everything out of there and put in a different like archive folder, and we put our own stuff in there. And across the whole company, we ended up doing this. We patched the stuff from satellite correctly. And then when we were done and we were in our validations and our final checks, we would put all their crap back in there so their stuff was broken again. Like we were never there. But we just patched the servers up. And then if they had to repatch their stuff, they could go work with their stupid repo that they had done. When we rebuilt Hadoop years later, we took all that from them. Never gave them root back again. Just asinine. But the reason it's asinine is just like you can't have too many cooks in the kitchen. There's a really good, if you ever see a show called Frasier, a really good episode where the brothers are just the dumbest psychologists you've ever seen in your life. Smartest guys in the world, but they can't like do anything. They buy like this restaurant, and on opening night they're all pouring more and more stuff into the soup, and they just ruin the soup, and it's terrible. Anyways, one of these other ones is this was a big one, like RPM DB, right? RPM databases are big on like RHEL and I think SLES, but for sure RHEL, any of the rocky ones. And when you go to do like a DNF install, it checks the RPM database, and if the RPM database isn't working, it just breaks, right? Can't patch the system. So it's super easy. You do an RPM DB -- rebuild. RPM DB -- rebuild. The command looks like this, if anybody cares. Was it not build? Hold on. I thought it was rebuild DB. That's what it is. Right. All it does is rebuilds the database. If you do this, if you have 1,000 nodes, I'd tell you in 1,000 nodes you probably have some kind of RPM database problems on, let's say like 30 of them on average. Like what was that, 3%? It's like probably there. But if you just do that command beforehand, probably 25 of those 30 will behave on the patching because it'll rebuild the database and it'll be fine. So what does that cost you in a patching night to just do that up front, to just check that it could do something, right? You've already checked the validation of the repos. Check that the RPM DB can be queried, and if it can't, you just fix it real quick. Again, just pulling that grout all over the place so that your tile, it sinks down in where it needs to, right? And then like maybe you got something more complex. So sometimes we're patching systems that are highly available. They're behind a reverse proxy or what we call load balancer. Load balancer is one front end and then it's terminating connections, hitting all the far ones. And maybe it's like F5 is a big load balancer. So we'll have like an F5 load. I think F5 is the name of the company, but they have load balancers. So they've got a load balancer coming back to 7 machines. You've drained connections to 2 of them. You go to those servers. You're doing all these checks. And the last thing you do is just say, well, hold on a second. Let me just ask real quick. Like I'm Columbo. I say, wait 1 second. And I just ask one more last question. The last question is, well, are any other people still connected to this? And if yes, we go make sure that it's turned off on the F5. We can do this with automation pretty simply. And then maybe we have like a few minute timeout. We know it's off, or maybe from the initial knowing that it's off, it's there. And then finally we establish that we cut connections. That's fine. We should have redundancy built in other ways. We should have caches and stuff like that allow our systems to connect to other nodes. And then now I can work on those 2 nodes and bring them back up. We can turn connections back on, maybe from only certain pools. We call that like a canary deployments, or we call them sometimes we call them one node deploys, even though they have more than one node. But we just set a smaller subset and start letting traffic come to it, making sure that it's handling the traffic well, connecting back to the database, doing all the other things it needs to do. And then we say, okay, let's move more of the work over there. Maybe we take the next 2 down. We'll do like rolling updates, take the next 2 down, bring them back up. Now we're like 4 of them of the 7 over here working. They've taken some of the load, and then maybe we say, okay, we can tolerate taking the last 3 down. We can do that all through automation. Surprisingly simple to do that. And you might say, that sounds really complex. Yeah, the system's the one doing it all. We're just the ones who have to go program it in. It's not as hard as you might think, right? So that's system checking stuff. We can do all that before the actual payload is dropped, the new deploy of a system, the patching, the whatever we're doing in an environment. All right. So here's the Plinko machine of systems engineering. Again, I don't know what's going to come out of that gate. I don't know where that horse is going to go. It's the most cursed image I could find for this. But system checking, we can group servers. We can group them by the operating system. We can group them by custom fact variables that are put on them. I actually have a whole lab on how custom variables work and stuff, and we'll be moving it over here. But like the point is, I don't know where these things might go. So I send them down the different paths. Well, let me point it this way. I don't know exactly what's coming down the pike from our CMDB or our management or what was finally decided. Again, some servers get pulled out, and I'm like, you know what? I don't care. Just give me the good list. I'm going to feed it in, and my systems are going to go the way that they're going to go through my automation. And I think of it like a Plinko machine. I don't care what you pour in the top of that thing, including it's so terrible. I showed this earlier, and I was doing this in our Discord, and we were talking through this, and one of the guys said to the glue factory. That was pretty good. I thought that was funny. Yeah, you don't always know what the input's going to be to your automation. So now one of the things that you might ask, right? People are going to slide stuff in or pull stuff out right at the end for a patching, release, or deployment of some type. You don't know. So just be ready for everything. So now one of you might very quickly say, well, how much variance do I prep for? Because we talk about edge cases, and then we talk about like extreme edge cases. Like in 1,000 servers, I might be able to very quickly, with some of the tools we talked about, get 980 of them patched up with one pass. Now, me and my 4 or 5 other engineers that are on for this weekend, maybe we're doing like patching, and we're all going to be all hands on deck. 20 servers is pretty reasonable. I would give 4 to each of them, and I would sit there and watch Netflix until they were done. Okay, that's kind of true, but that's only partially true. This is the heavy as the head that wears the crown, or all good things come to the principal engineer. No, I'm just kidding. But the thing is, I will try to paint with the widest brush I can. I will try to figure out where my efforts are going to be best used to get that up as high and as close to like a 95 to 98% initial first pass, because that's less work for everybody. But there's the thing called the Pareto rule, which is often called the 80-20 rule. So if any of you guys have ever heard of that, it's called the 80-20 rule. And it's the idea that most of the effort is going to produce a small amount. Hey, Blaze, how's it going? You guys got to me right at the end of my talk on automation. the guys voted for me to do this. And it's funny, the wife's coming home with food, so I have to get off of here in a second. But hopefully it's useful to you guys, Blaze. What we're doing, we're talking about this automation course that we're putting together. 16 weeks, free. It's in our Discord. And I was walking through the Unit 2 stuff. I did the Unit 1 stuff just to kind of talk through like how these things work. But then in the Unit 2 stuff right here, we were talking about the automation cycle and how we kind of move through, right? Yeah, more. It actually is going to be a Sammy now that I think about it. But then how do we trigger stuff and how does this work? And then system checking and how we kind of get to the Plinko machine of getting our servers to the different places they need to be. And I'm trying to emphasize these guys, like when I talk scale, I'm talking thousands of systems, right? Like I've patched thousands of systems in a night, and making sure that they have been patched and come back up the right way is very important. But when we do the labs, it's just 2 nodes, 2 or 3 nodes typically. And I tell the guys, like, as long as you can hit 2 nodes, if you can hit your own node and another node, I think you can automate to any number of systems. I really do, because it's all the inventory. This is one of my favorite things ever. Like I found this was the most cursed image I could find. Doesn't matter what they give me at the beginning of a night, I will patch or fix those servers up. Yeah, so I thought this one was funny. And then we were talking right here, I just got into variance, and there's the Pareto rule, which is an 80-20 rule. The Pareto rule says that 80% of your results are going to come from 20% of your inputs. Or another way for people to think of this is 20% of your people are going to cause 80% of your problems. That is definitely true on help desks and stuff. You're going to have a few vocal, just hard to deal with people that are going to cause most of your problems, right? And that's kind of the way this works, right? And then when I always talk about painting with a wide brush. If you said, hey, Scott, how much time should I put in to hit every single edge case across those 1,000 servers? I'd say, if I had to paint this wall over here, I have a wall right over here to my left. It's 20 feet wide by, 8 feet tall. Which one of these do you think I'm going to, you think I'm going to pick this up or a little toothbrush and do that wall with paint? Hell no. I'm going to tape it off all over the place. I'm going to hit it with this boy. I'd probably go get a sprayer, right? But the point is, I can hit it much faster and hit as much as I can. Yeah. I always use this example too. If any of you guys have ever seen The Count of Monte Cristo or read it, there's a scene near the end where he's got the pistol on Edmond Dantes. I don't want to ruin anything for you, but the book is like over 100 years old, so I guess I can't be spoiling anything. And he's holding it on Edmond Dantes, and he goes, "You've got one shot with that pistol, and it's going to take more than that to kill me." And he goes, "Well, I better put it where it's going to do the most damage." And he points it at Mercedes. And the only reason he doesn't kill Mercedes is because his name is Jacopo. He throws the knife and like hits his hand, and it hits her in the shoulder. Yeah, spoilers, right? The movie's only 100 years old. Kings to You. Yeah, we have that up in the Discord. We have Kings to You all over the place back in the day. I used to always tell people Kings to You, which is super funny because he would tell him that before he betrayed him. His buddy, right? The Count Mondego. Well, he wasn't the Count Mondego when he betrayed him, but after he killed his father, he was. So anyway, so this is what we do, and this is like what the course is about. And then what we were doing at the start of my stream today was we were over here in the automation section, and we went to this, and then what we were doing, these haven't all been deployed yet, so this is the course book that's going to come out. These are our other course books if you guys have never seen them. They have all of the stuff. These are all free. These are, like, I can give you the links for these if you want. Right. Anybody wants to do the admin course? Admin course. Boom. Here's the security engineering course. We're further up because we're in unit 2 of all of these right now. But this is free online, and it's got all of the links to my YouTube videos on them because I've recorded them all. But for people that want to spend some time, and these are not like light courses, they're heavy duty, there's a lot to them. Security engineering is stigging and protecting a box, protecting a set of servers, that kind of stuff. Anyways, where I was going with this is we set up earlier tonight, we were over here, and we did the automation lab. So we've got the first of our automation labs up, which is, again, very, very lightweight. Let's go to our profile, hit Tanis. If you guys have never seen Killercoda, one of the best free sites on the web. Here's our new automation lab that just came up. There should be one of them. Yep. And it said Automation Lab Unit 1 Tools, test and execute your automation tools. So then we come in here, make sure Bash works, make sure Python works, make sure Ansible works. Simplest thing ever. Hold on, wifey's home. Wifey, are you home? I am. Oh, wifey's here. Okay, guys, I gotta eat here. Let me drop off of here, but here's our lab activity. It says this is designed as part of a large set of instruction that's free from the Professional Linux Users Group. The lab book for this course can be found here, right? And then this links you back over there. And thank you. And I'll eventually work the markdown up. I don't know. I'm not like a markdown purist. I was telling them earlier, so I don't mind that sitting there looking like that. Some people want it to be linked over like here. I don't think it really matters that much. Because most people are going to be looking at this like this, right? So they're going to have a lot more room. And then this is setting up the environment. There's a little bit of an install of Ansible to begin this, so it takes a little time. It sits here. And then you would come down here and you would execute. This will actually execute the commands over there for you. So I love Killercoda for the same reason that I always tell you guys this example of, like, if you ask your buddy, you have two friends and they're like, hey, they're starting to get like bigger and a little more buff, and like the girls are checking them out, and you're like, hey, what are you guys doing? They're not going to sit you down in a locker room and teach you about the gym for 6 hours. They're going to be like, follow us around the gym. And I really do think that that's a big part of how, like, we kind of learn things. Like you follow along and you do the things, and then after a while you start to pick up, like, oh, I've got this here, and I understand this, and I understand all that. So you start to kind of learn this stuff as you go. So that takes a little while to set up, but it does say please wait a little bit. I probably should put like a little thing in there that says installing scenario may take up to a few seconds or something. Wait a minute, why did it do that? Why did it do that twice? You guys see that? Because it already did the installing. Wait a minute. There's something wrong with this environment. There's something wrong here. There is. Why is this doing this? Hold on. It should do the setup once. Should install, and then that, and then foreground should only happen once. But that happened twice. It looked like it finished, and then it did it again. So, well, that's fine. We don't care. And then you just come here and you hit the buttons, and it does the commands for you, right? It tells you about bash, tells you the shell you're in. You can echo the shell out, and then you can hit the nodes and make sure that they work for you to connect to and that kind of stuff, like simple lab stuff, right? So that's all there. Yeah, but I hate to get raided and have to leave, but let's go find somebody else to raid real quick. But I do appreciate everybody coming by from BlazeBits. I didn't really sit around and tell you guys too much about myself, but I'm a guy that does Linux for fun and profit. I'm marginally okay at it, I think, and I think I'm good enough to show it to other people. Let's go see who I'm following that's online right now. Oh shoot, Midnight Simon's on. We're gonna go hit up Midnight Simon. If you guys haven't been over here, he does software engineering. He's a professional in that space, and I appreciate you guys